Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show here on Channel 1 Television. On The Point of View, we pick the right topics, get the right guests, and ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. But every now and again, we delve into a specific matter. Tonight is one of those nights where we try and track the key issues influencing voters ahead of election 2024. We're voting in exactly 45 days, and today, the National Commission on Civic Education held a program to outdoor their latest research report on issues affecting voters for the year. We'll bring you some highlights of that program, and then we'll break down the key issues driving voters ahead of this crucial election. Stay with us. So the National Commission on Civic Education did a survey across the country and found some very interesting things around what the key issues are driving voters ahead of the election. They also found people's voting intentions. So which regions have people really wanting to vote and which regions would have apathetic voters? And what are the key issues surrounding the election for 2024? Shibara Bening was at the event. She filed this report.
With less than 50 days to the 2024 general election, anticipation is rising among stakeholders and the electorate. In light of this, the NCCE has launched its report on matters of concern to the Ghanaian voter. The report shows that education, employment, and health are the primary concerns for voters. Notably, employment emerged as a top priority for young voters, many of whom are advocating for increased job opportunities and the construction of factories.
Study respondents wants the next government to address challenges associated with the free SHS policy. That is the topmost concern. Education, employment, and health. These are featured consistently in our studies as key areas of concern. And this calls for strengthening and addressing bottlenecks in the implementation of interventions.
During a panel discussion, stakeholders deliberated on why other pressing issues such as corruption and ethnicity were not prioritized by voters.
The economy, jobs, education, you feel the impact more immediately. So if I cannot get my child into school, if I go to a health center and I cannot get quality health care, I feel its impact more immediately. So I can understand why those issues would rise to the top compared to the issue of corruption, because when I hear of a scandal, whilst I can appreciate how bad it is, I don't feel the impact immediately.
When it gets to the critical point where people vote, it looks to me that there are more important issues people consider to vote than the things they say to us. And it looks to me that ethnicity is extremely powerful.
Yes.
When it comes to what people vote eventually when they enter the ballot booth, which is something that doesn't come up really strongly here.
The chairperson for NCCE expressed concern over findings that indicate a number of Ghanaians are willing to engage in election-related violence.
They have people who are willing to say on record that yes, we are willing to participate in violent activities for one reason or the other. Should be a great source of worry to all well-meaning Ghanaians. And as a people, we should work together to ensure that we build confidence in the systems that have been set up for governance so that people will not feel compelled to take that course of action.
The research report launched by the National Commission for Civic Education has revealed that education, employment, and health are the top major concerns for Ghanaians ahead of the 2024 general election. In education, many Ghanaians are calling for the concerns or the challenges that have arisen so far with the free senior high school policy to be addressed. Also interesting is that public confidence in electoral systems here in Ghana has reduced drastically from 2020 to this year.
So that report from Shibara Bening brings us into the key highlights. So the director of research at the NCCE took us through some very interesting slides at the program. And tonight I'm going to pick some of those key slides and also add a few things to see if we can come to a meeting of minds as to what the key issues are for the election. So as I said, this was today, 23rd October. Professor or Dr. Henrietta Asante Sapong the NCC wanted to find out 4 things, right? They wanted to know what electorates demanded of their political representatives. So this is for both presidential and parliamentary elections, right? They also wanted to know what factors will influence voters, okay? And then they also looked at perceptions towards 2 important things, vote buying and then electoral violence. Today we're focusing more on issues 1 and 2, but at the end we'll touch on some of those issues as well. Now, of course, this was a national survey, all 16 regions, 276 constituencies. Don't forget, SAL is now a bona fide constituency, so 275 plus 1, 276. This was for eligible voters. So this is for people who are qualified to vote, who reside in all 276 constituencies. Now, this was a quantitative study, so basically it's looking at numbers. It didn't dig deep into why and how and the wherefores, but we will add the qualitative dimension in this analysis tonight. But we want to commend the NCC for doing a great job. There was a great discussion. We had Professor Baule, Dean of Business School. He was in a panel discussion. We had a couple of university professors and Dr. Osai Kwapong as well from Legon delving into the issues. So this happened across the country. Now, here are the key findings. Of course, most of the people surveyed were, of course, they are all voters, right? So all of them are voters. This gender breakdown is key because we have more women in Ghana than men. So the survey tried to follow that. So more women than men. The largest group of people, respondents, were between the 30 to 39 brackets as well. Again, some of the breakdowns are important. Half of them, a few more than half married. The Christian, 72, Muslim, 21. These are important numbers to look at because these mirror the national picture. So this is very important. So you know that it's nationally representative as well, all right? Educational background as well. So it wasn't just all educators, some with formal education, some with middle school education, some working, hawkers. Very nice sample. Even disabled people represented there. Very good survey. Now, let's come to the key issues. We've been voting in the Fourth Republic since 1992, all right? So if you voted in 92, 96, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, it means you had voted 8 times. 17% of the respondents had voted in all the elections. Key number here, 1/10 of them had never voted, which means that the new voters in this survey, 10%, which is very similar to the number, if you look at our electoral register, the number of first-time voters is roughly 10%. So this is a very good survey. My first election was the 2000 election. So I probably fall here, voted 6 times, okay? So find yourself, where are you? 3-time voters. It means that these people, the majority of, second largest number of voters are 3-time voters from this survey, all right? So that means they probably had voted 2020, 2016, and 2012 as their first election. So this is a nice mix. Later on, you'll find out the difference between people who have never voted and those who have voted more times. There's always a difference in the way they think. And that was nicely shown. So this is the voting history. Now, the first major talking point is this issue right here. 81% say they want to vote. Roughly 19% say either I won't vote or I'm not sure, right? Typically, as you get closer to an election, the undecided reduces. We expect more of that to go here. But if you look at election cycles in Ghana, after every 8 years, turnout reduces. And the survey proves that beautifully because you would find out that voter intentions, when you break them across regions, there's a big disparity. So 8 out of 10 respondents say, I want to vote. The question, do you want to vote? Where do you fall? Are you here, here, or here? If you listen to some of the middle class people, some younger people, they say they really don't want to vote. Some people have said to me they want to do none of the above. They'll probably fall in the 8.7%. Second interesting point, more men want to vote than women. So even though we have more women in Ghana than men, 84% of the men say they will vote, but only 79% of the women say they will vote. So maybe for some reason the women are not interested in as interested in voting as men are. That's an interesting. Now the other troubling point is this one. The issue of indecision. So these 2 groups, there are more women here and there are more younger people here, which is quite troubling. So you would think that young people have a bigger stake in the country's future. They want to vote. 9.9% of those who say they wouldn't, of this group together, 9.9% of this 19% are younger voters, right? So 1 in 10 of those who say they don't want to vote are younger voters. It's a problem. You'd expect that younger people would want to vote more. So we need to keep an eye on this. Why? Is their reality different from our reality? Why are a lot more of the people who say they won't vote among the younger group? It's an issue that has to be looked at as a country, right? Because you would have thought somebody's voted 10 times, or 8 times. So he would probably say, look, I've voted, I haven't seen anything, so I won't vote. The guy who's never voted, or who's voted only once, rather says, I'm not going to vote. That's an issue. Because the parties seem to be targeting younger voters too. So what is NCCE survey saying to us? And by the way, NCCE is a credible institution that's been doing this since, at least I've seen the 2016 report and the 2020 report. I'm told they started this in at least 2012. So they've done at least 4 rounds. So they are really honed their craft here. So first talking point, 80% of the people say they want to vote. About 20% say they don't want to vote or they don't know. More women don't want to vote than men. Younger people generally do not want to vote as compared to older people. Now, this is a master document. This is very serious. So what they did was they looked at the voting intentions for each region. Now, first thing you notice is that the region with the highest voting intention, 97.2% of the respondents in Northeast said they will vote. They are ready to vote. They want to vote. You notice that the more northern you are, the more you want to vote. So the second highest respondents for I want to vote is Northern region and OT region. Right? So Northern region, 94.4, I want to vote. OT, 94.4, I want to vote. Upper West, 94.3, I want to vote. Upper East, actually Savannah, 92.9, I want to vote. So basically, I can say 9 out of 10 people in the 6 most northern regions of Ghana want to vote. So there's a clear geographical disparity there. The higher you go, the more they want to vote. 97.2, and this is Northeast, a very small region. In a very interesting chart I'll show, this is the smallest region in Ghana by population, Northeast. But 9 out of 10 say they want to vote. Now, somebody, hey, that's Baumia's hometown. He's from Northeast. Is that part of the region? Well, Mahama is from Savannah. He also has a pretty high number, 92.9. And by the way, these 2 regions are the smallest by way of population too. So quite interesting. So the 2 candidates are from the 2 regions with the smallest populations. The other point is that the 2 candidates, one has the largest region, one has one of the smallest regions. So it's quite interesting. Now, I'll show you something that will make this thing clearer. The more southern you go, the less people want to vote. Now look at this. Greater Accra region, only 70% of people say they are going to vote. Greater Accra region, only 70%. So that the 3 regions with the lowest voter intentions are Greater Accra region. There's also Central region, 78.6. And then actually Eastern region before even Central, 76.4, Eastern region. So Greater Accra is the lowest. Eastern is also low. Central and Bono are also low. Right? Now, if you come to the 10 regions in the south, the voter region has the highest of people who want to vote, 88.4 of the people in the south, 88.4. That's followed by Bono East, 86.8, and then Western North, 86.1. So of the 10 in the south, the voter, I don't think I even call Bono East South, but whatever. Basically, the bottom half is Volta, North, Bono East, and then Western North. Greater Accra, 70.8. Eastern region, 76.4. Now, the reason that the Greater Accra, Eastern, and Central thing is interesting is this next slide that I will show you. So, we've been doing some analysis of the registered voters. So this is our own data. This is not NCCE data. This is Finex Skills Hub. We've been working with them on this, right? Now, the most populous region in Ghana is the Greater Accra region, 3.74 million voters. We are not talking of people who live here, just voters, 3.7 million. The second is Ashanti, 3.2. So Greater Accra has 500,000 more voters than Ashanti. Guess what? Eastern is the third largest region, 1.8 million. Then you have Central, 1.7 million. All right? Then we have a few others. Now, here's the key point. The region with the most voters has the least, the region with the most voters has people with the least intention of voting. So Greater Accra has the most voters, but they only 70% say they're going to vote. All right? Now let's go back. The region with the fewest voters, 0.34, Northeast, 0.34. Right? This is the smallest region by way of population. That's 340,000 voters. Guess what? Almost all of them want to vote. So you can't make this up. The people who have the numbers say we only 70% to vote. Those who don't have the numbers say we all want to vote. Okay. Now, second issue there. The Central region has the third largest increase in voters. So, if you look at the increase in voters from 2020 to 2024, Ashanti region has the most, 254,000 new voters. Greater Accra has the second, 211,000 new voters, or people who have been added to the register. Now, even though Eastern is the third largest region in Ghana, Central region has the third largest increase in voters, 171,000 registered voters. And yet, Central region, only 78% want to vote. I mean, to be fair, if you look at our turnout, 78% is a pretty decent turnout. But generally, these numbers are higher than the voter turnouts. All right? Because, for example, the 2020 voter turnout was around 79% nationally. All right? The 2016 one was much lower, about 72%. So these numbers will be higher. So you can say that for all of these numbers you're seeing, voter turnout will probably be lower by a couple of percentage points. But very interesting analysis that, first thing, the region with the most voters has the least voter intention. The region with the least voters has the most. Number two, Central region has the third largest increase in voters. 1.74 million voters is number 4. But in terms of increased voters, 171,000 new voters. Central region isn't that well. Eastern region as well. Eastern is the third largest region in Ghana in terms of voter population, right? And yet, only 76% want to vote. What's going on there? Then, people talk of voter in Ashanti, all right? Voters, intended voters, 88.4. Ashanti, 81.2. What does that say? Well, to make sense of this, you can come here. Volta region, they have 1 million registered voters, 1 million odd voters. It hasn't really changed. 5.4% of the population. They had a 9% increase in registered voters. Ashanti, which has 3.2 million registered voters, 17% of the population, or 17.5%, their increase was 8.4%. So there isn't much of a difference. So Volta had a almost 10% increase in voters, and Ashanti had an 8% increase in voters. So if you look at voter increase by percentage as well, Northeast had 16.4% newly registered voters, but that's just a percentage. The absolute number is not that high, 47,000. But percentage-wise, Northeast, interestingly, followed by Northern region. Right? The Northern region, 14.5% increase in voter population. And by the way, Northern region is a very large region for voters, 1.2 million voters. All right? Tamale, Bimbila, and the rest of them. So these are interesting numbers. So let me just go back to this slide because I just want you to reflect on it briefly. The higher you go in the country, the more people want to vote. The lower you come, the less people want to vote. Number two, it seems as if the more urbanized, because Greater Accra and Central have almost merged. So is it an urban issue? Kasua, lots of voters. In fact, Ewutu Senya East has the second largest constituency in Ghana after Domi-Kwabenya, right? Yet, voter intentions are not as high. And this survey was taken in September, all right? So we need to pause and think about this. Volta 88.4, Ashanti 81.2. Is that a clue of anything? All right? Nothing is very high. Nothing is interesting. You should watch Nothing because Nothing has 94.4% voter intention. And Nothing does pretty well when it comes to new voters as well. Northern region has 14.5% new registered voters. So they are registering. Registry in Northeast, registry in Savannah 13.4 jump, Northern 14.5. In fact, if you take the gainers in votes, Northeast is number 1, Northern number 2, Savannah number 3, and then Central and Western North number 4. Does that say anything? All right, these are very interesting numbers that we need to look at. So I'm going to just go back to this slide one last time before I move on. Take a look at this and tell me where you live. Is this true? Do you want to vote? Of course, as we say, voter turnout is always lower than this voter intention thing because there's always issues of being rejected votes. And when you take the registered voters and then you run the number of who voted, there's always a lower percentage because we've never had a 90% voter turnout in Ghana. The highest was close to 80 in 2004. But this is very interesting. So I want you to reflect on this. When we come back, I'm going to take you into what are the issues that voters say will influence how they vote. All right? We're going to compare what the NCCE found with what other surveys found. Surveys like the Afrobarometer as well as the Global Info Analytics. Then we'll deal with some more specific issues about the election. This is a special edition of The Point of View, examining voter intentions ahead of election 2024. It's just 45 days to elections. 45 days to elections. Stay with us. Welcome back. So tonight we're breaking down the NCCE's voter intention survey. Over 9,000 respondents in September across the country. It's what you call a national representative sample. They want to know what issues will drive the election, what issues are of concern to the electorate, and how people want to vote. First major talking point, Greater Accra region with the most registered voters has the least voter intention. Northeast region has the largest voter intention, 97.2. The north, the higher you go in the north, the more people want to vote. The more you come down south, the less people want to vote. These are the key issues. Now, we've also shown you the increase in voter register. We'll deal with this on a separate program next time, but watch Greater Accra, watch Ashanti, very interesting numbers. Watch the north as well. Now, this is another question they ask. So, what will influence who you vote for as president? Okay. Now, anecdotally, people say ethnicity is a very big driver of votes in Ghana, but the survey doesn't show this. Of course, nobody's going to tell you I'll vote for this party because the man is from my hometown. So people believe that ethnicity is a big factor. But be that as it may, what the NCCE found was that candidates' policies and promises is close to the top, 83.4, right? And then your track record and experience is also there. So what you say you will do, this is future, and what you've done before. So basically you're saying, I will look at what you've done before and what you say you will do together. So this is looking at the future, this is looking at the past. And the two are the largest because this is not one response, okay? So this doesn't add up to 100. So a lot of the responses are like what the person said they would do and what they've done before. Very important. Party affiliation is only 42%. What does that say? Does that mean we have more people who are prepared to be floaters? Because the NDC and NPP claim that they each have about 40% of the voters, or 43%. So they just need to get 15% of the floating voters. But based on this, could it be that people are more interested in their ascertainment than they are in their party? And by the way, when you come to a party, there are party loyalists, there are party members, there are party sympathizers, and then there are whatever. So we need to, but basically only 42% of respondents said they will vote based on party. Running mate is 23%, so that's even half of that. This is interesting. 12% of the people say, Charlie, if I get money, I'll vote. This is serious. You know, if you give me money, I mean, NCC, you need to do education on that. 12%, at least they are being honest. Recommendation from friends, 11%. Now, religion is 10%, slow. It didn't even used to show up at all. The NCC decided to focus on religion because they feel like they need to deal with that because of some of the issues in the 2024 election. Thankfully, it's only 10%. We want it to be lower. We don't want it to be high. Ethnicity as well. Although people believe this is probably higher than people are saying. Okay? So these are the two. My question to you is this true? Does this reflect the reality? Or are these answers people give because... Now, interesting point. This is for president. When you ask for parliament, it's very similar. 83%, 82%, party, money. The only difference is that ethnicity and religion change, but it's the same. So people are basically saying the reasons they vote for president is the same as the reasons they vote for parliament. So there's no difference, right? These are the things that will influence my choice of vote. Now, the other issue, do you want to vote for a woman? This is an interesting data. In 2016, when this question was asked, only 50% said they will vote for a woman as president. But it's now come to in 2020, it came to 60 66. It's now 64. So it's sort of straightened, flattened out. This is progress, although you would expect it to be higher. In 2016, when the question was asked, only 50% said they would vote for a woman. Parliament as well, the figure has increased, but it has reduced by some 4%. Right? So make of that what you want. By the way, we have only 15% of our MPs are women. And if you look at what's happening in Parliament with all the women losing the primaries, we are going to have a lower number. So, and funny enough, affirmative action bill has been passed. So we need to use that. NDC, MPP, CPP, and whatever. You probably want to give women a certain quota to support their working, their numbers in Parliament. So this is an interesting point. 63% said they will vote for a woman for president, or 71% said they will vote. So Kamala Harris, I don't know what you make of this. Now here's second meaty point. All right, now this survey was taken in September. First, I want you to look at the first 5 issues. Before we look at the percentages, the first 5 issues are very important. Education, employment, health, roads, and economy. These are the top 5 issues. Okay, now, the reason these top 5 are important is that when you look at other surveys, Afrobarometer, Global Info Analytics, these 5 are still the same, even though the order changes. So I think that the surveys show us that if you ask Ghanaians, what are the most important things in your life in relation to elections and voting, education will be there, jobs will be there, health will be there, roads will be there, economy will be there. Now, there are some things that are important that are not here. For example, taxes, number 15. Corruption, where's corruption? Number 9. Sports, number 19. It doesn't mean they are not important. It just says that they are not necessarily election drivers. All right? I mean, in the past 3 weeks, we've been discussing Galamsey. Galamsey wasn't even a list added. So they probably didn't even mention environment. Okay? But it's very interesting to note that these are the 5 things, the top 5. Education, close to 18%. Jobs or employment, 15.7. Health, 12.5. Roads, 10. Economy, 7. Now, the reason I focus on the 5 is that when we picked Musa Dankwa's work for this is October and November. October. Don't look at don't look at the percentage. Just look at the 5: economy, job, education, roads, health. You see how it works. So there seems to be some synchronicity there: economy, jobs, education, roads, and healthcare. And when you come to NCCE as well, of course, economy is 5. All right, jobs is 2. Education is 1, health is 3, roads is 4. It mixes up. But these are the top 5. All right. Now, the other interesting thing we notice is this one. The change between 2020 and 2024. So, these 5 were still the top in 2020 as well. But 2020 is blue, 2024 is orange. So education less so than 2020, employment a little less so, health a little less so, roads almost the same, but economy has risen from this to that. All right, so you can glean from this that even though in terms of the percentages, this is number 5, the jump from here is more than double, right? Whereas for all of them, education is probably falling off a bit. This has fallen off a bit. This of the top 5 is the one that has increased the most. And I think this is an interesting point that the importance of education economy to voters is a bit more than double. So keep an eye on this, okay? Also, an interesting point, education, even though it's come down, it's still the highest. Now, the reason I like this survey is that they don't just give you one question. They now ask you, what do you want to see in education? All right, they ask that question, what do you want to see in education? And I thought that was a very good thing they said. So for example, you said education is important to you. What do you want to see in education? Look at what the people said. We want the government to address the challenges with free SHS. Wow. That's 38.7% of those who said they wanted education. When they were asked, what about education? Free SHS. Correct. So you can tell that, and it's funny, the parties are also campaigning on free SHS. MPP says preserve free SHS, vote for Baumia. NDC says, Muhammad didn't say he will cancel free SHS. He will make it better. Funny thing, they wrote their manifestos before this came out, but this seems to, I think everybody's on the same on this point. But it's important to note that the Ghanaians are saying, free SHS is great, but address the challenges. All right, so will this affect how campaign goes? All right, number 2, expand infrastructure. Big point. Again, the parties, if you look at MPP, NDC, I watched a documentary, Educhum, he's talking about schools they built. NDC said they will do the E-blocks. Again, expand infrastructure, build more schools, 30%. All right? And then resource the education institutions to aid teaching and learning, 10%. Revise the curriculum, 7.3%. Employ more teachers, 6%. Subsidize tertiary education and make it free, 4%. So NDC, your subsidy thing is number 4, or it's only 4% here. All right, your first year thing. Provide financial aid. Okay, that's also there too. I don't know. So I think that this is going to be a major issue. So whoever wins this election, you have to do something about free SHS in terms of making it better. Almost 40% of those who say education, and by the way, education was the number 1 issue. The thing about education though is that it flips with jobs depending on what time you take the survey. Because if parents are about to send kids to school, school fees are being paid, education top of mind. If you take the survey when maybe they're already in school or something, education maybe comes number 2. But it's always in the top 5. Jobs has always been in the top 3. In this survey, health has come up, and we'll deal with that, all right? So let's go. Let me go back. So here are your top 5, right? Education, jobs, health, roads, economy, or employment. What did the people say they want to see about employment? Let's go there. Employment. Create employment opportunities. Build more factories. This is what people want. Over almost 60% of the people who say employment is important, they want more opportunities or create more jobs. So the government is supposed to create jobs for people or build factories to create jobs. So people are not saying, empower me to create my own job. You know, people say, oh, government's job is not to create jobs. Charlie, the people say they want you to create a job. So this idea that, oh, government only facilitates, well, that may be true theoretically, but on practice, how many people don't come and say, put me in police, put me in nursing, put me in this? People want jobs. So government opposition, this is what they are saying. Roll out more youth employment, 30%. So the youth, so it looks like the respondents who said employment are young people. I know people who've been out of school for 6 years, they don't have a job. Some even 10 years. Some are doing masters because they don't have a job. So this is a clue to the youth. They want jobs. And this is interesting. Even though they interviewed businessmen, only 7% are talking about small businesses to thrive. Over 80% of our businesses are small business. But people say they create a job for me. They are not saying, so this entrepreneurship thing, I don't know. Because you say support small business, only 7% are saying this. They want jobs. Give me a job to do youth employment program. The rest are very small. What else do we have? Health. Very interesting point. On health, people say health infrastructure. So maybe Agenda 111, there's a method to that issue, right? Somebody's hit the right nail there. Because on jobs, on health, which is number 3, what are they saying? Expand health infrastructure. By the way, not all the hospitals are finished. There are various stages of completion. So the next government has to continue. The next government has no choice but to finish. Whoever wins, Bawumia, Mahama, Alan Cheda, whoever, Ayariga, you have to finish the hospitals. Otherwise, you're in trouble. People really want their... When we went to do the Mepe Health Center, they love... And there's Bator. Bator is not far from Mepe. Bator has a huge hospital. We did just a hospital, a medium, small-sized hospital at Mepe. You should see. Everybody was there. The MP, the DCE, everybody, the health... Because everybody wants a hospital in their hometown. So this is very important, right? Because once there's a hospital there, we'll send a doctor or a nurse or a health assistant, and people don't have to travel long to go to hospital. So it's a very important issue. Improve NHIS to give wider coverage. In previous elections, NHIS was a big issue. It's come down. Maybe people have come to accept that it will work sometimes, it won't work sometimes. This used to be a very big issue, 2008, 2012, 2016. It's come down. Health centers with modern facilities, 13%. Build the hospital first. If you build the hospital, we can even donate to church and buy the machines. Build the hospital first, okay? And then quality healthcare delivery. There's a lot more. Specific demands on roads. Now, On radio in the morning, I think I get a lot of urban road issues, right? Roads is in the top 5. What are people asking for roads? They want government to construct more quality roads. So there's concern about the quality of the road. Potholes too many. Almost 60% want better roads. And then they say repair all deplorable roads, 30%. So dualization. So you see, people are not asking for too much. You know, we are doing Accra, Cape Coast dualization, Accra, Kumasi. We are not saying they are bad, though. But what people are saying is that you just give us roads. And if you Google the word demonstration in Ghana, I can say almost 7 out of 10 will have to do with roads. So roads, I mean, we know, even in Accra, everywhere they are complaining. So this is an important, which is why, of course, MPP say we've built the most roads since any government. NDC say we lie bad. So, you know, people are not even talking about accidents. Can you imagine? People are interested. They want the road first. Ghanaians, this was shocking for me. Street lights. Ensure all major roads are fitted with street light. People shout on my show, give me street light, give me street light, give me street light. They want the road first, which is how they are giving the road without a street light. Because a road without street light can also be a death trap. You know, but it looks like people just want the basics first. So it doesn't mean they don't want street lights, but they prefer the roads first. These are very sobering findings. I wanted to go back and show you a few things in relation to how the regions differ on this issue, on the top 5 issues. I thought there's something here that's yeah. So this is something you should think about before we take our next break. So 4 out of the 16 regions, their top 5 issues coincided with the national average. Right? Is that a clue to something? Because don't forget, education is number 1, employment is number 2, health is number 3, road infrastructure number 4, economy number 5. That was the order. These 5 regions, Ashanti, Central, Savannah, and Western, these 4 regions, this was the exact same order. Are they pointers to something, or is it just a coincidence? These other regions, they had different angles. So some of the regions in the north will have maybe healthcare as the number 1 or something. But these 5 coincided: Ashanti, Central, Savannah, and Western. What does that say to us about the voting intentions, the voting possibilities in those 5 regions? All right, so let's move on. So key issue here, let me just go back. I want to just reiterate this point. This is a very important point. Compared to 2020, these are still the top 5 issues. But economy has risen much more. The rest have come down slightly. That's a very important point. This is post-COVID issue. Now, specific demands, free SHS, make it better. Infrastructure, top 2. More employment opportunities, youth employment opportunities. Health infrastructure, very important. Build more roads. And then the last one is on the economy. What do people want on the economy? Again, address high cost and low standards of living. So high cost of living, things are expensive. Low standards of living. I can't rent a proper house. I don't have proper food to eat. It's tough for me to get healthcare. So on the economy, people, 40% want, it's just a synonym, cost of living, tough. Okay, cost of living is hard. Things are hard. That's what people are saying, things are hard. And when an election has an economy issue, it's very, very important to take note of that. Because it drives, I think Kufuor helped us in 2000. It's become the opposition mantra. MDC is saying the same thing. 40% of the respondents on economy say cost of living. Exchange rate is 21%, so this is very interesting. Of course, it was made a big issue by the vice president in campaigning when he was opposition. It's a big issue still. Second largest issue in the economy is the exchange rate, because it affects everything. It affects inflation. It affects cost, interest rates. It affects the cost of things. So a healthy 21% exchange rate, even higher than inflation, right? So it's as if people, of course, Ghana, we are an import-driven economy, because in most countries, inflation will be the most important issue. But here, cost of living, standards of living, exchange rate before even inflation. That tells you that we are a very import-dependent economy. So once the exchange rate is tough, it affects everything, right? Then, of course, this and inflation are the same thing, right? Bringing measures to control price, when you add the two, it's the same thing, it's inflation. Create more employment opportunity, still on the economy. So you see, the employment issue and economy are related. In fact, when you go to the Musa Dankwa survey as well, it sort of paints that picture. And then reduce taxes on goods and services, 6%, a very big business concern. Taxes also affect prices anyway. So this, in a nutshell, is what people are asking for. Let me just end with education. When it comes to parliament, it's interesting. People are not just asking the next president. They say on education, their MP should enact laws to improve free SHS. So the free SHS improvement is an issue for both presidential and parliamentary elections. So if you go to parliament, let them do the free SHS well for us, right? And then we want more schools, more facilities. So the top two, they don't only see it as a presidential issue, also a parliamentary issue. Advocate for increased funding for education. Policies to address the needs of teachers. And when you go to employment for MPs, look at that. MPs approve policies to create more jobs. 80% of the respondents are saying to their MPs that go and talk about jobs in parliament. 80% go and talk about jobs in parliament. The rest are very small. So when it comes to MPs, almost everybody says, MPs, go and talk about job creation. We don't want, all these things are not, this is the main issue. So MPs, you have a role in job creation, according to your constituents, all right? And then when it comes to health, these are the issues, not too different, all right? We want road construction, road maintenance, quality control for contractors. Look at that. Hold contractors accountable. But most of them just want good roads. And then more distribution of infrastructure and NHIs. When we come back, we'll look at some troubling issues around inducement to vote, the issue of violence, and people's confidence in the electoral system. That is quite worrying as well, because the numbers are not very encouraging. This is especially from the point of view, we're looking at the NCCE's latest report, a survey of voter intentions in the country. Stay with us. Welcome back. Tonight on A Point of View, we're reviewing some very great work done by the NCCE, and I need to say congratulations to them. A national survey on voter intentions and what voters want for the election. 45 days to elections. This survey was done in September, a month ago, released today. I moderated a panel and I decided to bring the slides to you to take you through. We've dealt with interest in voting. 81% of the people say they will vote. 19% say they don't know or they are not sure or they won't vote, all right? The higher you go in the country, the more northern you go, the more they want to vote. Greater Accra has the lowest voter intention. But we checked that with the whole issue of registered voters. Then we dealt with issues of importance, the top 5, education, employment or jobs, all right? Then we had health, and then we had road and infrastructure, and then we had the last one being the economy. Now let's talk about vote buying. Now, these are quite troubling numbers, all right? So let me show you something. A lot of people think vote buying is prevalent or somewhat prevalent. So everybody agrees vote buying exists, okay? This is the issue. Have you ever been approached with a vote buying or somebody offered to give you money so that you vote for them? Every region has it. Western North has the highest, almost 28%. Upper West has it. Bono East are the 3 highest for vote buying, possible inducement. So the question was, has anybody ever said, I'll give you money for me to vote for you? Look at that, everywhere. It's not above 30, yes, but it's still serious. Because some people may not even admit it, right? This is a problem. The top 3 regions, Western North, Upper West, Bono East. So we need to watch that, all right? Now, this is a very funny question. The question is, Kamaru, if I give you money, will you vote for me? That's the question, right? Oh, 46 says, no. How do you say never in Hausa? Unlikely, 23%. So the good things, a lot of them say no. But Charlie, some people say they will correct. If you add these two, almost 18% say, Charlie, me, if you give me, I'll take. In fact, 10% say, I'm very likely to collect. It's serious that if you give me, and I'll collect and vote based on the collection. We have to worry about that. All right? This is not a good number. We need to make this 0. All right? Likely and very likely together. And this is neutral. I'm not sure. If you add them, it's a problem. All right? But a lot of people say they are not likely to collect. Okay. Now, election-related violence was also another important issue which we have to talk about. Okay. Now, are you aware of election-related violence? Almost 80% say they are. Now, Northern region recorded the highest response on awareness. They know that it exists. Mind you, they are also going to vote a lot, and they registered a lot, and they also know that violence exists. All right. Now, the other thing I want to point out, factors contributing to election-related violence: polarization and rivalry, fraud, if you cheat me, disputed election results, ethnic and regional tensions. Very important points have been identified here. All right. So let's not joke with issues around the Electoral Commission and people thinking they are being cheated and that kind of thing. It's a very serious recipe for chaos. Because if people feel like you are cheating them, they will do butu-butu. So we have to be very careful there. Now, this is very interesting. Are you willing to do electoral violence? 99% say no. But I want them to be 100. In fact, 84 people say they will do. Charlie, how? 84 people, they say they are willing. And there are 30 females in that group. I think they need to go and ask them the question again, because we don't want anybody to say they will do. But at least it's a realistic thing, right? 99% say they won't, but we know that more people do than they admit. Okay, 99% say they won't, but even the fact that 84 said they will do it, and they were talking to somebody, probably even government, they don't know. So we need to be very worried about this. But this number is good. 99% say they won't. Of course, actions speak louder than words. Now, this is the last thing I want to touch on, and I think that the EC must deal with something very important here. This one. This is a problem. This is a problem. How confident are you in the electoral system? This was the question they asked. Now, look at something very interesting. This is Northeast, too. 97% are registered to vote. They are happy with the electoral system. They are going to vote. Look at the people who say they are not confident. Does it say anything? In fact, if you look at this very carefully, you can paint green here and paint blue here, right? Northeast, Eastern Ashanti. These are MPP strongholds, all right? Volta, Upper East, Savannah, NDC strongholds. In fact, you can stretch it. You can stretch it. So this is a challenge, all right? So it's like people's trust for the electoral system depends on which party they belong to. It's not a good thing. And even with those who say they trust, it's not even up to 60%. This is because if you look at Afrobarometer and other surveys, this thing used to be in the 90s, in the 80s, 70s. Now, the region with the largest, can you imagine, 55. This is a problem. That the people with the most confidence in the electoral system, it's not even up to 60%. So I think the way we conduct ourselves as a country, political parties, electoral commission in particular, we need to be guided by these things, right? Because if you have, this is a confidence level that's not the best. And again, as I said, this is not just NCCE. Afrobarometer confirms. In fact, on Friday, they are releasing the round 9 Afrobarometer. Because the round 8, similarly. In fact, there was even a question about your trust for the electoral commission. It was even much lower than the electoral system. So EC needs to take a look at some of the things it does so that we can get the public to be more confident in what you do. Let's take this as a friendly advice. But this is not a good thing. Northeast, Eastern, Ashanti, Western North are your top 4. Volta, Upper East, Savannah, Northern are your bottom 4. And we can see the issues there. So this is not something we should be playing with. This is not something we should be playing with at all. I just wanted to go to the suggestions because again, we are not just doing this for election, whatever. We are basically agreeing what NCCE is saying, right? They say EC should improve upon biometric voting technology to capture new registrants in a timely manner. This is the NCCE. EC should be neutral, transparent, free and fair in the conduct of the elections. I'm not the one saying it. This is NCCE, based on a national survey. Education on voting procedures should be enhanced. NCCE is trying. We should support them. In fact, I'll tell you something. NCCE is supposed to be on strike. Only the managers are working. Yet, today, the program they did, I was surprised. These are people who are on strike. Yet, they managed to pull this off. Their commitment is there. So, government, let's support them. Because educating of voters is not just the media. NCCE should take the lead. And they are saying We should improve our processes. Electoral laws on voting procedures should be strictly adhered to. More polling stations should be created. Of course, this came in before the polling station numbers were released. So I think this has been done because there are at least 2,000 more polling stations than the 38,000. There are about 40,000 polling stations. So EC has done that. Security during voting should be strengthened. This is what the suggestions coming in from Ghanaians to the Electoral Commission. Improve your biometric voter technology. Be neutral, transparent, free, and fair in the conduct of the elections. This is what Ghanaians are asking for. And I pray that we all listen to this. This is what Ghanaians are asking for. In conclusion, the continuous mention of these sectors is an indication that they are important, right? So the government, the opposition, the political actors must work hard to improve people's lives, because that's the whole point. But I'll end with the last few points, right? The combined effect of the findings on voter turnout, determinants of voter choices, and the key issues of concern suggests that the Ghanaian voter has hope and aspirations in the democratic process. This calls for effective implementation and enforcement of manifesto promises so that people will get benefit from voting. All right. So credit to the NCCE. This has been a fantastic presentation they did for us, and we are using this with permission. We are also part of the public education, so we are stretching this. We added a few of our own slides to make a point. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's hear from you on the point of view. Thanks for watching tonight's edition of the show. My name is Bernard Avle. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.